So you may ask yourself, looking at this little lens that's only 539 grams, how does this cover 20 to 200 millimeters full frame? Well, I'll tell you how. Just like Britney Spears, Sigma has done it again. They have released another all-in-one lens. Covers everything you may need as a photographer or a videographer. They just released the 18 to 300 for APS-C, and now for full frame, we have 20 to 200. So you can get as wide as 20. You could do things like vlogging if you wanted at a 20 millimeter, and then you can go all the way out to 200 millimeters if your subject is very far away. So many people want a lens like this if they don't know what they are walking into. Let's say you're going traveling, you're going on vacation, you don't know what kind of photos or video you want to take. Here you go. It doesn't matter what you come across, you are going to be fine. But oftentimes with these super zooms, the optical quality suffers greatly for that versatility. Not so with this Sigma 20 to 200. It is impeccably sharp, razor sharp when you are at 20 millimeters or you are at 200 millimeters. And for disclaimer, Sigma did loan me a copy of this lens, which is nice of them. I do have to send it back. I don't get to keep it. No money changed hands, but I do like Sigma lenses, generally speaking, so let that bias factor in where it may. The major compromise you are making with this lens is the variable aperture, which isn't that bright when you compare it to some prime lenses. We have an f3.5 at the wide and all the way out to f6.3. Now, at f6.3, at 200 millimeters, you can still get a very blurry background on a full frame camera, so you can still take some nice portraits with some nice background separation. And 3.5 at the 20 millimeter end, while not fantastic, 3.5 on a full frame camera is still not bad in terms of light gathering and separation. Personally, I thought a lens this compact would start somewhere around f4.5, so that's great that you're at 3.5 to 6.3. The build quality is the Sigma Contemporary line, and I am a big fan of this. I think it looks really stylish. I think it feels really great. It's made of a very hard plastic with a matte finish and nice rubber rings for turning focus smoothly or for extending the barrel. I think the resistance on the extension is just perfect. It is not too light, but not too stiff either. You have a 72 millimeter filter thread and a minimum focus distance of 0.165 meters or 0.55 feet at 28 millimeters. It also comes with a matching and stylish plastic petal lens hood. As I mentioned in the beginning, sharpness is a standout for this lens. So great to have such a sharp lens that gives you this level of versatility. Autofocus. As you might expect with a modern Sigma lens, autofocus is not an issue. It is pretty much perfect, as good as any third-party lens could possibly be on a Sony system. You will not get more than 15 frames per second. That's a Sony thing, not a Sigma thing, when you are on a Sony camera. Sony has capped all third-party lenses at 15 frames per second for continuous autofocus. So if you want something that can shoot more than 15 frames per second on your Sony camera, this is not the lens for you. The focus motors are extremely quiet. I don't hear them at all, even when I put my ear up to the barrel. When it comes to focus breathing, there is a little bit of focus breathing at the 20 millimeter as well as the 200 millimeter throughout the focal range. You'll find a small bit of focus breathing, but nothing to complain about in my opinion. With flaring and glaring, as I say in many videos, nobody does any better than Sigma when it comes to suppressing glares and flares. The coatings they use are just wonderful, and they will reduce the flares and glares better than anyone that I can think of, including Sony G Master lenses. So Sigma in this category always does great. The Sunstars are also very nice on this lens at the wider ends. At the telephoto, the Sunstars are really nothing to write home about. But generally speaking, when people are taking landscape photos or cityscapes or something with the sun that will be in it, they will usually be using a wider focal length anyway. While this lens isn't a bokeh beast like a 200 millimeter f2 that they just released, it is still very lovely bokeh when you are looking at the background out of focus areas. Nice fall off from things that are in focus to out of focus. And the bokeh balls are also really excellent. Nice and round and clean. No onion ringing, no haloing. So great job there, Sigma. With chromatic aberration, lateral chromatic aberration is well controlled. The loca, the longitudinal chromatic aberration, you do see a little bit of that when you are down at the lowest f-stops, depending on the focal range. So if you're at 3.5 at 20 millimeters or you're at 6.3 At 200 millimeters, you can see some of that longitudinal chromatic aberration on the foreground and the background. It is not a lot. There is a little bit there, but for the price and versatility of this lens, I certainly think it is acceptable. With distortion and vignetting, Sigma has already provided a profile to correct that with one click. There is a little barrel distortion and some vignetting on the wide end, and a little pincushion distortion and some vignetting on the long end. With price, we have a $999 price tag USD, and I think that is a fair price for a lens like this. When you consider the fact that the Sony 20mm f1.8, now it's a 1.8, but it's just one focal length, that is $1,048 right now. So for about $50 cheaper, you can get a 20 to 200. Yes, there's a variable aperture, not as good in low light, and it's a bigger lens, but do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that $1,000 for this level of versatility is really, really great. So anybody who's going to go on long trips, don't know what they're walking into, just want one lens, they're at their kid's sports game, maybe they want to do close-ups, and then they kick the soccer ball down the field, or whatever kids do at sports. Either way, you are covered. So thanks to Sigma Canada for lending out this bad boy. Let me know down below, is this a lens you are interested in? Do you want an everything lens, a one and done lens? And if so, does this float your boat? If not, tell me something that does float the old boat, and then I will do a video on that for your faces. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.